Well, welcome today. I'm excited to bring you a new series we are doing. It is called the Executive Sideline, and we are doing this series in partnership with CABMA, something that is near and dear to my heart that I have been a part of and a past president of. And today I'm lucky enough to have somebody that I know, love, and respect and is one of my good friends, Bryan Dean. Bryan serves currently as the Senior Associate Athletic Director and CFO at Texas State. Thanks for joining today, Bryan.
Brandi, so excited to be with you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and maybe even how you got to Texas State.
So I've been at Texas State for 7 years. I've been in college athletics over 15 years. I was at A&M, kind of going down the finance route, and then my college roommate, his brother, worked in finance, and he told me he hated it. So I found out that you could actually work in college athletics, and I was like, I'll take a pay cut and go do this. And so I actually started in minor league baseball with the Sugarland Skeeters down in Sugarland. They're now the AAA affiliate with the Houston Astros. But when we started, we didn't have any players. We're a true startup. And so I was the one in the gear on billboards advertising for the team. So that's my claim to fame. And then I went
Was a pretend baseball player.
what's that?
You were a
Yeah,
pretend
it
baseball
was a
player.
pretend baseball player. It wasn't my name. I tried to get them to use my name, but they were using my image and everything, but they wouldn't use my name. But yeah, I was there for a while. Then I went to work at Rice University, and that's where I kind of started my career in college athletics. Worked my way up to associate AD. Then went to Cincinnati for 4 years as the associate AD, and then came down to Texas State 7 years ago, and have been here ever since.
Awesome.
And yes, I am a dad. That takes up more work because I have 4 kids. And so that's, yeah, busy with that.
What are your kids' age ranges?
Oldest is 10. I got a 10-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old daughter, and then we have a 2-year-old boy. So we are
Okay,
young.
okay. Well, prepare yourself because I'm gonna tell you those teenage girls will get you.
Oh, yeah. And my wife is not used to she's used to having the girls. Now that we have a 2-year-old son, she is not used to that. She was not prepared to be a boy mom, but she's learning. It's good. It's good. It's a little
Boy mom
crazy.
is good. Speaking from experience, boy mom is
Yeah.
good. Girls are fun, but boy mom is different. You just wait. Like it's kind of like daddies and girls. You got your
Yeah.
hands full with three, but mamas and boys, there is
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
something special about that.
Yeah.
So right now you left Cincinnati, you've gone to Texas State, obviously very different in budgets and what they've got going on. You want to tell me a little bit about the transition from Cincinnati to Texas State?
Yeah, so yeah, the transition from Cincinnati to Texas was really being from Texas. I knew how much potential Texas State had, and I don't think from a national standpoint people really understood the potential of Texas State. Several people asked me that, specifically in cabinet too, like why make this transition? Because we were on the verge of some great things at Cincinnati. We were, a few years after I left, they make the college ball playoffs, all that. But Texas State, knowing like there's just so much potential. It's I could sell you all day on Texas State. It's 30 miles south of Austin. It's 40 miles north of San Antonio. There's a river that runs through campus that's 100 yards outside of my office that's 72 degrees year round. It's a phenomenal place. And so is really the potential of what Texas State could be in that opportunity. And we're just now starting to capitalize on that and grow our brand nationally. That was really the main reason is I knew that this place could be something special. I like those challenges of being able to go somewhere and experience, you know, I get to do a lot of different things because we don't have the staff to handle a
Right.
lot of stuff. So I have to get involved in a lot of things that a lot of other CFOs don't have to take on, but I enjoy that part. And so that those responsibilities really intrigue me about Texas State. And now that we're finally capitalizing on some of this potential with the Pac-12 transition, it's just an exciting time for us.
Yeah, so conference realignment is a hot topic right now, right? And you guys are making your way through that too. So being at Cincinnati, do you think that your experience at a bigger school then coming to Texas State has really helped like open the eyes and be able to use your experience to help navigate some of that transition? Maybe give some insight too?
Yeah, I think it has helped us navigate some of this transition. I think it was okay to, like, technically I'm still the new guy on senior staff and I've been here 7 years. And so just having some of that experience of doing things at a different university, I think coming in with new ideas and saying, hey, things can be changed differently and there's different ways to do this. that has helped through some of this, really in particular when I first got to Texas State. But even now as we go through, um, now as we get closer to this transition, it has helped because I can call John Daniel at Cincinnati, who went through the transition, and pick his brain on how he navigated some of this stuff. I can call Eric George at Rice, and all those people that I've connected with through CABMA, and that's been really beneficial in how to navigate and what we need to look out for and prepare for.
Would you say that your connection with people specifically through CADMA has been instrumental in your success?
Yeah, the connections that I've made through CABMA has 100% has been so beneficial for my career. We have a good group of individuals that all started around the same time and have seen each other's careers grow, and we're on a text thread that will celebrate birthdays and accomplishments and different things. There's that human side of it that allows us to connect, but also there's that professional side that when we're having troubles or facing challenges, that it's an easy thing to reach out to and say, hey, are you dealing with this? How have you navigated this? And that's been so instrumental in helping me professionally navigate certain things.
I'm going to pivot just a little bit because I think that when I was going to SFA or right after I was, I was in the transition potentially. I think we were transitioning
Yep.
around the same time. Out of what was happening, you got there under an AD and then had a new AD come in. Can you tell me like how you've navigated the transition of a new AD and maybe how do you help align your vision or their vision with what you're trying to do?
Yeah, for me, the way I felt best to navigate that transition with a new AD was understanding how they needed to be communicated to. I don't expect our AD to be, and I know he's not a numbers person. And so my job is to relay the pertinent information into a way that is understanding to him. So really it's how do I figure out, how do I communicate this important information in a manner that is most effective, because he has so much on his plate. I don't want this to be an additional thing that he has to worry about, but he needs to understand the severity of it. So trying to be able to navigate how to best communicate. Our previous AD was it was basically a 30-second conversation, and he really didn't check in, and he was okay with that and just basically let me manage the budget. Our new AD is more involved, and he wants to be involved in some of these higher level decisions of how we manage that. And so that's made my job a lot easier. But it's how do I communicate that to him and figuring out what's everyone's kind of learning style so that I can present information to him in a most
So
effective and
now, well, now that I'm going to keep on going with that line of talk track is like, knowing that you're the area expert, you're the financial piece of this.
yep.
He's leaning on you. He trusts you to know those numbers. Tell me, we talked about this earlier, been in the game for a little while and, maybe more, a decade ago, our biggest hurdle was cost of attendance. I remember being at Austin P and panicking, like, how are we going to pay for cost of attendance? Since then, you've seen this evolution of college athletics. I mean, there's a ton of opportunities still to come. But right now, rev share is kind of the hot topic. We may not call it that, but that's everybody's calling it something different. And there doesn't seem to be a ton of consistency other than there is no more rev. We're all figuring out how to share it, right? Talk a little bit about, CFOs seem to be shuffling the cards more than we ever have before. Talk a little bit about your strategy and what you guys are doing to navigate those waters.
Yeah, so during this time, it's a complete restructure, and it's a complete um, with the chaos presents opportunity. And I think for us, that is actually very beneficial because we're growing at such a high rate, and um, that presents us a huge opportunity. So I think we have to reprioritize like what we're doing and where we're heading. And for us, yes, rev share is a challenge, and we've got to play in that game because that's the new game. But the expectation for us is we can't compete with University of Texas. Right, we have to have realistic expectations. So, but can we compete with UTSA? We can't have UTSA surpass us. So for us, it's re-strategizing and taking a harder look at where are we going to pivot and find the additional dollars to support the rev share model. How are we going to be most efficient in that and effective in that? But also too, like we're needing to make sure that we don't want it to be an excuse for our coaches. We don't want it to be, we constantly hear that so-and-so's got X amount or we're losing someone for this amount. But, we know that we can't compete against Texas, but we have to be able to compete against the similar and like schools. And especially as we step into the Pac-12, we have to re-strategize of we're moving into a much more competitive basketball league. And so we've got to refocus and try to invest more heavily in that sport to be able to be competitive in this new league.
That's awesome. You talked about earlier being in a space that, one, you have the knowledge that you have, but also being at a Texas State, you get to have your hands in a lot more. Talk about the roles that you have outside of just the CFO role.
Yeah, so this is one of the things I love about Texas State and my athletic director, well, we may not agree on everything, but he respects and values my input and opinion. So we get involved in everything. Right now, like everyone else in this industry, they're trying to find ways to generate more revenue. Right. And so we're dealing with certain things right now that are so far outside the box that some of them I can't talk about, but that are just so unique in terms of different naming rights and sponsorships and how does that incorporate into our operations and things like that we haven't had to deal with before then. And it's exciting, it's challenging because it is a different scope, but the reward, if it works out, is high. But it's also something that, I know that I probably wouldn't get that opportunity if I was somewhere else, or also if we weren't making this transition to the Pac-12.
That's awesome. Well, excited that you get to be part of that. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that I'm interested in. It's one of my favorite talk tracks. Share with me what your core values are and how you would give advice to younger CABA members when they're looking for what's next and how to navigate transition. Will you talk through some of that for me?
My core values, and really, if you're going to work for me at Texas State, I have some expectations, and we have the acronym CATS, Bobcats. It's committed, accountable, together, and service. And to me, that's summed up is that we're here to serve our student athletes and our coaches. That doesn't always necessarily mean doing their job for them, but being available, being able to be supportive, and handling our responsibilities to make their job more efficient so that they can handle the things that they need to do. In terms of what advice I would give to younger people entering this industry is, like I said, we have to be adaptable in the business office and in college athletics in general. We in the business office at Texas State have taken on, we're not just handling accounting, we're handling our equipment because we're selling surplus on an e-commerce site. We're doing all these different things that traditionally we wouldn't have to do. So being able to not just be focused in one area of just accounts payable or contract management or whatever, being able to be flexible and to get as much knowledge as you can, because things are adjusting and the experience that you gain from those things will help out tremendously.
How much has technology played a part in your role currently?
Technology's played a huge part, and Works has been a great partner with us, and especially now as we navigate this rev share, process of the stress. And I know I've texted you, I know I've texted Kevin several times, just rolling this out to pay our student athletes and the fear of something not going wrong or something going wrong. And then our student athletes blowing up social media saying that they haven't been paid, just a huge fear. But it was that process worked itself out, and that's been a huge asset for us. But even just in the daily processes, we've got to figure out a way to be more efficient. Like I don't know much about AI, but we've started looking at how can we use AI to make our processes more efficient, to formalize some of our reports and things like that. So we're definitely looking at that because we are trying to navigate some of this and to see how we can be more efficient.
Well, we appreciate you being a Teamworks partner. We always joke, I told you when I started with Teamworks I was going to call you, and I have. You guys have leaned in. Your teams and your coaches all use our hub product. You guys are using GM right now for your contracting and the paying of the athletes. I think it's been pretty well received so far. Can you tell me what, you've got 4 under 10, right? Yeah. 4 under 10 is dad. Texas is home, right? Is Houston home?
Texas, yep. Houston,
Okay.
Texas home.
Okay.
Yep.
Right now, what's next for Texas State with you?
I'm really happy at Texas State. One of the things that I learned in as I grow older, and especially with this transition from Cincinnati to Texas State, I left Cincinnati, and there was a great group of people there, and that were younger and motivated and driven, that really challenged you to get better at work. And moving here, I think it was a struggle at first, but alignment is so important with the university and where you're trying to go. And our university president is incredibly supportive of athletics. And without that, it would make this ship that we're trying to sail, it's like an anchor down. But with him, it's just full speed ahead. And that's very beneficial. Like I said, with my athletic director, who I know respects me and appreciates me and gives me opportunities, that's something that I'm very appreciative too. So Texas State's been great to me, and I love it, and I'm excited to see where we go in this transition, and I'm excited to compete on a higher level. And then with family too, this is a great area that I've been selfish in my career and moved to Cincinnati when my wife was 7 months pregnant and no family in that area. And so now I've got to consider, my family, my kids, what they're going through, and try to be the best dad I can be and not put them in situations where we're constantly moving or picking up and leaving.
For sure. And you know what? College athletics is not a bad place to raise kids. You will, as they get older. My son's now 18. He's like, when we go to games, there's an expectation of where we're going to be, right? Like
Yeah,
you said,
absolutely.
you said we're sitting in the bleachers. He's like, what the heck? We're not going to be on the sideline. We spoil him in some of that too. I mean, we still get to work in one of the greatest industries, in the world. So very thankful.
That's so true. And I think there's so many challenges in this industry too right now that people lose sight of, like, what makes it truly special to work in this industry. And we're going to we're going to get through this. We're going to come out of this. Is it hard right now? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely.
It's awesome. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. It's like, what is the best career advice you ever received?
So it's actually from Omar Banks, Cincinnati, and he told me to take the emotion out of the decisions. So that's led me far, because it's hard sometimes. You get connected to certain things and to certain people, and you got to consider what's in the best interest for the department as a whole.
Sure. What if you could go back and give yourself some advice in the beginning of your career, what would it be?
Probably don't make a move just to make a move. And it's look at, there's sometimes in the heat of the moment you can be frustrated, and it can be challenging, and you can think the grass is always greener at certain things, and that's not always the case. And so just, I'm not indicating anything, I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
sometimes it is, it's best to take a deep breath, work it out, and it's going to be okay.
Tell me, what is one of your most favorite CABMA memories?
Brandi, it's got to be when I met you. It's got to be when I met you. We were sitting at a table. It was in Orlando, I think, right? It had to be Orlando, maybe. And it was the year, I think it was I remember when you introduced yourself, because you know how we used to have to go around the room and say, like, and introduce yourself, and then they changed it to just the new people. And I remember you because you're at Austin P, and I'd never heard the phrase "Let's go P" before, and you just stood up and said that, and
The whole
everyone
room
died
laughed.
laughing.
The
The
whole
whole room
room
laughed, and then all of a sudden, towards one of the last days, you sat down at the table that I was sitting at, and I had no idea that you were going to be nominated for the VP, and we're just talking. We hit it off, and we're very similar. And then it was just, we're joking about something, and then all of a sudden you popped up to go give your speech, I think, and I was like, oh, that's the person.
and you still
I don't
voted
know,
for me. What the heck? Right?
100%.
True story, Brian. The year that I would have been president or playing the convention was going to be Cadma's first year in Vegas. And I think he was excited, knowing my personality, what that could have meant. I was planning all of it, but then COVID happened. And so we had to do a virtual convention that year. But I'm lucky enough that you were one of the friends that I made in this industry. And, being able to pick up the phone and call you when I was on campus, and now that I'm off campus, I appreciate your friendship. And, wouldn't have been possible without CABMA, which is crazy, right? One last question. I don't know if you're a reader or a podcaster, if you could give people in the industry, especially those that are a little younger and maybe not as far along in their career as you, is like suggestions of a book or a podcast or anything that you've done to like help yourself grow.
Yeah, I'm a reader. I read. This is really nerdy. You shouldn't have asked me this question. We went to a book fair the other day, and it was like an old library book fair sale because I'm cheap and business side, gotta save money. I bought probably 30 books, and it was like index funds for dummies and just all the stuff that I already know someone about, like just all the stuff that it's just somewhat related but not, like it's just the constant growth.
Right.
And you pick up something, maybe I may pick up one small thing from that, but it is the constant reading and constant like growing, and you never know where you may learn something from. One of my core philosophies that I actually learned from a pre-marriage counseling book of like the 5 love languages. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So I, of course, take that. It's supposed to be how do I relate to my spouse. I take that and like, well, how do I use this for work? And so I started internalizing that and was like, took that and like, hey, I've got to start to use like, how do these coaches relate to people, because they're all about relationships and recruiting their student athletes and networking to find the coaches in their next job and stuff. So I actually took that to apply it to my job. So it's just constantly picking up things and learning and thinking outside the box.
Sure. I mean, who would have thought that as the CFO of an athletic department 15 years ago, we would need to know about, the private sector or funding from different places that you see private equity, right? Like who would have thought that we needed to know any of that information? So the evolution of the college athletic space has been so interesting. But I think something you said earlier, that with the chaos comes opportunity. So there's a ton of opportunity for us to continue to grow and learn outside of that. But thank you again for being with us today, and I appreciate you.
Brandi, I appreciate you.